Hello, everyone, and yes, it is me. I am back, or should I say, hey yo, guys, and it's great to be back. First of all, this is a wrestling video, as I've had the itch, I've missed doing it, and we're on the road to WrestleMania. Actually, we were in the Fastlane to WrestleMania, so that's what this video will be about. I'll be giving you some thoughts about the Fastlane pay-per-view, which took place this past Sunday from Memphis, Tennessee. Now, before we get into it, first of all, I've missed all of you. I will have a lot more stuff coming at this channel. Not just wrestling, there'll be a lot of sports interviews. I've been doing a lot of sports interviews. That's the one thing I should say. I'm really going for, I guess, doing a bunch of interviews. Of course, you guys know I'm a big sports fan, and I started up a podcast back in the beginning of January. And there's a bunch of interviews that are already on my SoundCloud account. So if you see the link there in the description, go click it. There's some great stuff. I'm covering everything from the world of hockey to the NFL to the NCAA to the NBA. Tons of basketball interviews up recently, the past couple weeks. And of course, there's a bunch of MMA interviews up as well. And the wrestling side of things. So I think right now this is the most exciting time to be a wrestling fan. So I figured why not come back and give you a old school wrestling pay-per-view review. I can't even tell you the last time I did one, but it's gonna be fun to do. And for a pay-per-view that I felt I give it about a 5 to 6 out of 10. I mean, I think this show had 3 really strong matches, one even great match, but the crowd was just weren't there. They weren't totally invested in everything, sat on their hands for a good portion of the show, and I think it really, really hurt the overall outcome of this show, and which is surprising because this was in Memphis, Tennessee, a very hotbed wrestling town. You know, history goes to show that, with, of course, the old Jerry Lawler wrestling and Randy Savage's father's outlaw territory back in the day. So I mean, everyone knows that Memphis is a big wrestling town, but I just couldn't understand why they were on their hands for some of this stuff. I'm not sure, but anyways, let's hop on the fast lane and get to this review. We started things out with the authority in Seth Rollins, I'm saying Dolph Ziggler, Big Show and Kane versus Dolph Ziggler, Ryback and Erik Rowan. First of all, the three babyfaces, Ryback, Erik Rowan, and Dolph Ziggler, the worst babyface faction or group of guys ever thrown together. I mean, they look like such losers, like that what you'd see in a special eds class or an advanced class or something like that. They just seem like guys that have no business together, just there because they have nothing really for either three guys to do. For Rowan, I feel bad because they broke up him from a pretty strong potential tag team with Luke Harper for no reason, and off from the whole Wyatt family, which was really taking off. But they went with the Bray push, and decided to break those two off. Those three just have no chemistry together, and I'm so worried about WWE right now having Kane and Big Show as still prominent heels in the world of in their company in 2015. This is a bad thing. Please, they will obviously bring more guys up once after WrestleMania, as that's the point in time where they normally do that. But this is just not a good thing for them because I think everyone will agree with me. I'm so sick and tired of seeing Kane and Big Show on my TV. Like I said, it's 2015. Let's move on. They got a bunch of talented guys in NXT that could have a chance or something. Someone else can get a chance at pay-per-view, but those three guys are so boring. And Seth Rollins, I'm, by the way, blown away at his total 180 degrees from being just, that guy in the Shield who was a really strong worker to now almost being like near main event level. He's Shawn Michaels, I guess, 1992, 93 right now. He's a few years away from, Shawn super push time, but that time is coming. I felt the match was okay. Obviously, to me, the best parts of the matches were when you had Ziggler and Rollins in there. I will say Ziggler sold the Big Show KO punch perfect, and then Kane hit that Baldo bomb for the finish. Rollins was going to do a curb stomp to Ziggler, and then we heard voices in our head when Randy Orton came out and made his triumphant return. But I wasn't a fan of him coming through the aisle in gear. I'd have liked to seen him come out maybe in street clothes through the crowd and hit an RKO on Rollins to really set up that match, instead of the way they're handling it, where they had Steph on Raw basically be like, oh, well, maybe you'd like to come back and join the Authority, which, you know, makes no sense whatsoever considering the big injury angle that they did back in, I believe, November. So that didn't make sense to me. I mean, the crowd's really invested in that match. I think everyone should be, because Orton is now back at being an elite babyface, and Rollins is, you know, a pretty strong heel, and it's a fresh match, and that's something this company doesn't have much of. So I'm really happy to see them be doing that going forward. Hopefully they can figure out the booking of that, because it's a little bit worrisome. But going forward, I think those two will have a fantastic match, and it's a fresh match. That's something the audience really needs, like I said, considering we have Big Show and Kane still on our active roster. The next match is the match that may have ended pro wrestling in the city of Memphis, Tennessee, in Goldust versus Stardust. Now, I'm not sure why this did not gel at all. Crowd was totally quiet for the whole thing. Could it be because you have two tag teams going through the same type of a breakup angle? Or was it they were thrown off maybe by Stardust's pant attire? Or what have you? I don't know. This didn't gel. It had the big promo package beforehand, meaning the company felt this is a really big deal. But I don't know, just nothing gelled for some reason. Crowd couldn't care. Goldust and Stardust really worked hard, but it didn't gel at all with anyone. And the finish was a little screwy when Goldust reversed that crucifix, and he got the pin on Stardust, but it looked like Stardust kicked out right at 2. So just a bit of a screwy finish. But other than that, I mean, not a good match, and this may be the end of this program in terms of a big pay-per-view situation. I'm not sure if that's true. This is just me speculating here, but you just get the feeling that they'll be in the Andre the Giant Battle Royal and maybe Extreme Rules, but I think Miz and Sandow may get the Mania match for a tag team breakup, so we'll see with that, but just not a good match. Just crowd could not care at all. The next match, on the other hand, though, I mean, wished it would have woken up the crowd a little more. I felt it was a really good match. It was for the tag titles. The Usos defending against Tyson Kidd and Cesaro. I love Tyson Kidd and Cesaro as singles, so you know they're going to be great as a tag team. I love those tag teams that are the big, tall, strong powerhouse teamed up with a agile, technical, smaller, high flyer guy, which Tyson Kidd is, obviously. And I think the Natalya heel turn is going to come official soon. She was dressed all in black, basically signaling she will be a total heel soon, which she needs, because she's been a pretty bland babyface for a very long time too. So I'm happy to see that they're kind of going in a different direction with those guys. And just a really good match. Short, didn't get enough time that it could have used, but really good match. Tyson Kidd and Cesaro came away with the victory, and we have new tag team champions. I really hope they can get a strong run and maybe a tag match at WrestleMania instead of, you know, a pre-show situation that the Usos had. It was a good match. I mean, it's great to see that they get the victory over the Usos, who are a team that the company had been really pushing for like last year, because they had a strong, lengthy run for those tag titles back after they won them, and I didn't lose them until I believe May. So that was really nice to see. And I mean, tag team wrestling is always one of the most exciting things, and this company has a lot of guys that can be paired in that situation, and happy to see them use Kidd and Cesaro in that scenario. Then we had a really strong segment, in my opinion. It was the Triple H confrontation with Sting. Triple H, of course, basically was out there saying, "Oh, Sting, you know, you went down with the ship of WCW. Basically, I would have wiped you out of here." Da 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 da. A lot of WCW burial stuff. But I love the confrontation. I love how Sting hasn't had to say a word, and he's still taking advantage of Triple H. Triple H tries to cheap shot him after they had a close up, and then we got the cool iconic spot of the bat versus the sledgehammer in there. Sting held Triple H hostage in the corner, basically, with the bat, Scorpion death drop, and they, of course, are pointed at the sign setting up the match. And then after the segment, they announced we will get Triple H and Sting in a match, you tell me this a year ago, I wouldn't care. But I think they've done a really good job since November at Survivor Series with these guys. That this is going to be really good. And I think if anyone you want to have Sting to have your first WWE match with that was around during the Attitude Era, I mean, Triple H is the guy. Maybe Shawn, but Shawn's totally never going to wrestle again, which I'm fine with. But I'm okay with Triple H being the guy. It's going to be an interesting style match, and I'm really looking to see what they go with it. Everything they've done so far has been a hit with me, and solid grades for them on that. So I'm really looking forward to see where it goes from there. The crowd was very invested in this. I mean, obviously WCW was in this big southern United States national company, and Memphis is a big part of a lot of that stuff. So having guys come over territory wise, and Memphis is obviously a big wrestling town, as I've said, so Sting has a big connection there, so really went over there well. The next match was for the Divas title. Nikki Bella defended against Paige. Terrible. I don't really need to say too much. Didn't work out that well. I mean, these girls, you felt rushed, and Paige is just now a face, and the Bellas are back together. I don't understand that at all, but what have you. It was there, and Nikki Bella won. Moving on to another kind of disastrous thing here was the Intercontinental title match. Wade Barrett, Bad News Barrett, defending against Dean Ambrose. Crowd seemed ready for a title change here. Obviously, that's not the direction we're going, as per, I guess, seeing what happens from SmackDown, or reading about what happened on SmackDown. We'll get a ladder match for the Intercontinental title, which won. I'm excited that we get, I guess, a lot of guys getting a chance at a belt, or they're trying to make the Intercontinental title belt mean something. But, I mean, it seems a little forced for a lot of people, considering this could have just been another rematch, which I'm maybe not the most excited for. But you could have done something more than maybe the ladder match. But I guess ladder matches have a big stay at WrestleMania with, of course, Razor and Shawn for the Intercontinental title, and then the Money in the Banks. So I guess I'll be fine with that, but this just didn't gel well. They tried to do the spot where Barrett escapes with the title and then, have a disqualification, but we didn't end up really having a disqualification. We just rang the bell. It was bad. Moving on to the co-main event for the U.S. title, Rusev with Lana defended against John Cena in a really good match. These guys were bumping really well for each other. The chemistry really worked out well. I mean, I think Rusev is better off than what a lot of people have thought he was going to be. I mean, it was a big man versus big man match, and I think I still get blown away at how good he is, but I really shouldn't be, because he had that same type of match with Swagger and the Swagger feud. He had some really good matches with Big E back in the summer, and now he's with, the company flagship, and I'd say he held his own, and it was a really good match. I mean, of course, we get the screwy finish, which works in this scenario where Cena broke out of the Accolade, and Lana came in, low blow, Accolade, and then Cena eventually tapped out, or passed out from the pain, I should say, and then, Rusev retains, but now we will get probably either a stipulation or anything going forward, but for what they had, Cena cuts the promo before the pay-per-view being serious, and that's what this needs, and maybe we'll get Hogan and Cena somehow tied in there. They did something with Google and Twitter today, so I think those two will be there, plus Hogan's, the real American hero from previous years, and Rusev and Lana against those, not in a match, but just Hogan in Cena's corner, and obviously Lana being Rusev's corner, but a match I think that could be really exciting going forward, because Cena steps it up at WrestleMania, and I think Rusev's ready for that shit, but they have to, I think they need to have Rusev go over in some way. They have to eventually end the streak, but I don't know. I think a victory over Cena would really be good for him going forward. And then the main event, the number one contendership, who's going to face Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. Daniel Bryan versus Roman Reigns. Excellent match. I would even say great. Bryan is such a strong storyteller and just really led Roman Reigns into a good match. I mean, of course, it's your power guy versus your technical submission guy that can counter anyone. lot of like Brett matches from the mid 90s against that WWF roster with your crushes and your Atom Bombs. So I mean, I thought these guys worked really hard. The story they told was really good. Of just, I'm gonna find ways to counter you and counter your power, and Roman Reigns would find ways to get his power in to counter Daniel's speed and what have you. And I really liked how that worked out. I mean, Roman Reigns is really becoming the WWE version of Bill Goldberg. They got him using the spear. Only maybe having more technical matches. I think a lot of people were trying to make the Nash comparison from, how well he dominated in the Rumble a couple years ago and what have you. But I think he's a little bit more technical. It seems Goldberg-y to me. I don't know about you. Maybe you can leave your comments below or get at me on Twitter. But Bryan hit a big roundhouse kick, was going for his second kick in the corner, but Reigns got up and speared him. And he's going on to face Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. I'm pretty excited. I think Paul Heyman can sell us on this. I think it'll work out. It sucks that Bryan's not in the main event, considering he's the most over guy in the company. But I don't know. I didn't really want to see a triple threat. Bryan will probably end up back in the main event for WrestleMania 32 in Dallas. And we'll see what happens. If they want to push Reigns, we'll see what happens. And if it falls on their face, well, they've learned a lesson. And I feel bad for Roman Reigns if it does. But if it doesn't, hey, I mean, they were right and we were wrong. But Bryan really led Reigns to his best match of his career as a singles. But as well, I'll give Reigns credit. He's done some pretty good facials and timing. Like his facials of disbelief that Bryan kicked out of the Superman punch and what have you were just really strong and a really great match. So overall, it's a thumbs in the middle show. I think the last two matches really made it, but there was some garbage in between. Great. So, but then again, what's one man's trash is another man's treasure. So, anyways, leave your feedback below, and you can always get at me on Twitter. The Twitter link is there. Check out the podcasts, and that's going to do it for now. Peace out.